So, dear moderator, dear panelists, dear participants, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the C20 Summit side event titled The Cooperative Model as an Expression of Civil Society for a Sustainable Recovery. This event has been organized by the International and the Italian Cooperative Alliance. My name is Danila Curcio. I have had the great honor to be the facilitator within the International Cooperative Alliance C20 working group. So let's start our webinar today. I'd just like to give you some in-house rules. For the panelists, please share your presentation on screen when you do your intervention. For interpreting, some of you already asked me, the event is hosted in room 1. Please select the channel for either English, Spanish, French, or Italian. Then we also have a Q&A, question and answer session that you will find the box. So please write your questions, but given the strict time, we don't know if we are going to be able to answer to all of your questions. So I guess it's pretty much all, but before I like to give the floor to our moderator, Mr. Brodsky, please let us thank the civil society Sherpa, Mr. Moro, who will join us shortly, as well as the other Sherpas, Valeria Emmi, Stefano Prato, and of course the C20 chair, Stefania Burbo, for having given us the possibility to share in this past 10 months, actively engaging within the C20 dialogue. So thank you very much all. Please, Mr. Brodsky, with great pleasure, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danila. And I'm Howard Brodsky from the United States, and I am Chairman and CEO of CCA Global, which is a cooperative operating and serving over 1 million family businesses and 25,000 childcare centers in North America. And I'm also Chairman of the ICA Working Group. And it's my pleasure really to be with you today. And thank you so much for attending today's events at such a critical time in our world, with increasing inequality and with the pandemic has only heightened the need to have a better economic social model. It's my sincere appreciation for the opportunity for us to discuss the impacts cooperatives have from around the world today. We need an economy that promotes common good and shared success for all of us. There are two types of poverty, I believe, in the world. There's the poverty of economics and the poverty of hope. So many people feel financially left behind and with little hope for a better future. The cooperative model addresses both of these. It addresses both types of poverty. The cooperative model has proven to be entrepreneurial, durable, and successful for all. It cuts across all segments of our society. Cooperatives build a shared ownership structure that focuses on being more equitable and inclusive of doing business, proving successful in any industry, in any country. Many people perceive cooperatives to be a small part of our society and economy, but the reality is there are hundreds of thousands of cooperatives that are billion-dollar corporations and that account for over 1 billion members around the world, which is astonishing. 1 billion members in 145 countries with over 3 trillion in revenue, serving over 250,000 jobs. And over 12% of the global economy is represented by cooperatives. We are a strong, equitable, meaningful force in our society. We have scale, and yet cooperatives meet the needs across so many segments of health, agriculture, utilities, retail, housing, and financial sector. We have a global impact, and yet at our core, we are local. We anchor the businesses in our community. And together, I can tell you, we want to build a more sustainable future for all of us. Cooperatives provide the ability to own, control, and benefit from companies they use and are purpose-driven companies. And we align directly with UN sustainable goals. Businesses can no longer afford to ignore the greater social and economic impacts. Cooperatives give a voice to those without a voice in our economy. Cooperatives are driven by the values, and yet they build profit they generate that goes back to its members. They align with mankind's highest ideals of democracy, environmental, and sustainability. The cooperative model can propel the world into a new era of equity, sustainability, and innovation. They are key to building a better, more inclusive society. It is my pleasure to introduce Bruno Rollihan, who's the Director General of the International Cooperative Alliance. Bruno?
Thank you very much, Howard. And well, dear participants, in the name of the International Cooperative Alliance, which has been serving, uniting, and representing cooperatives for 126 years, I would like to welcome you all to this C20 side meeting. First, I would like to thank very much the C20 Secretariat, represented by C20 Sherpa Ricardo Moro, who is giving cooperatives a real opportunity to engage and participate in the C20 working groups. I want to thank him also for acknowledging the importance of cooperatives in this in contribution to the economy and sustainable development, and mentioning them in the policy pack recommendations. Secondly, I would like to thank the Italian Cooperative Alliance, and in particular, Mauro Rosetti, its president, and the ICA G20 Working Group vice chairs, Giuseppe Guerini and Alessandro Hina, and their facilitators, Daniela Cuccio and Stefania Marconi, for their participation in the C20 working groups and for interacting with other ICA members from the G20 countries so that these could be engaged in the C20 working groups and for achieving the milestone of cooperatives being recognized now in this C20 policy pack recommendations, and in particular in the fields of banking, the environment, social services, and gender equality. I also thank them for organizing this side event during the C20 Summit, which is in fact the first of its kind. And last, I would like to thank Howard Brodsky, the chair of our new ICA working group, G20 working group, and all the members of this working group for their contributions during our working group meetings since the beginning of the year. We will continue our engagement with the G20 next year during the Indonesian presidency. Our G20 working group and its activities, including this one, will be reported at the occasion of the 33rd World Cooperative Congress on deepening our cooperative identity, which is a very exceptional event which will take place in Seoul at the end of this year. The G20 working group session will be on 30th of November in Seoul and online. Just check our website. The Congress itself will be on 1st to 3rd of December, and it will be followed on 4th of December by an intergovernmental roundtable with high-level public officials, including from the G20 countries, from institutions promoting cooperatives at the national level and also in the UN system. Now, considering the huge economic and democratic importance of the G20, it is fundamental that cooperatives be fully engaged in the G20 and particularly in the C20 as part of the civil society organizations and their role in society. Cooperatives are both businesses with high market shares, particularly in some sectors such as agriculture, banking, and insurance, but also increasingly key services of general interest like health and social services. And at the same time, they are demographically very, very significant, with a very high proportion of the G20 population being cooperative members, meaning also co-owners of a business and recognized stakeholders in production, consumption, employment, health, education, credit, insurance, housing, and so on. And thanks to their double character as democratic businesses and civil society organizations grouping key stakeholders, as I just mentioned, cooperatives also have a profound impact on sustainable development of whole territories, in particular where there is a high density of them. Like, for example, in Emilia-Romagna in Italy, the Basque Country in Spain, Santa Fe Province in Argentina, Gujarat State in India, Quebec in Canada, or Wisconsin and Minnesota in the US. So, and with the hopefully soon the end of this pandemic and the new start of the economy, which should take place now, I think that these characteristics of cooperatives are more than ever important to align and to promote. So I look forward to hearing today's presentations on cooperatives in sustainable development, finance, health, and women empowerment. Thank you very much.
Bruno, thank you very, very much for spending the time with us and sharing your insights. We're very fortunate today to have Maurizio Martina, who's the Deputy Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization, to speak to us. Maurizio?
Thank you very much, and a warm greeting to you. Penso di poter continuare a parlare in italiano, lo faccio con grande piacere. Sono grato a C20 per avermi dato questa possibilità di dialogo con voi, e penso, come è stato detto anche da chi mi ha preceduto, che l'importanza del lavoro che la presidenza italiana sta facendo proprio quest'anno con il G20 è data molto anche dalla capacità che la presidenza italiana oggi sta dimostrando di far vivere questi appuntamenti oltre le responsabilità strette delle istituzioni. Io credo molto nella possibilità che attraverso strumenti come il C20, il B20 ed altri strumenti che l'Italia sta utilizzando si possa fare davvero un lavoro per condividere lo scenario che abbiamo di fronte e definire nuove responsabilità, nuovi impegni. È chiaro che siamo tutti di fronte a un cambiamento storico, lo si dice spesso, ma mai come oggi, credo, nella nostra storia recente, dobbiamo sapere utilizzare con forza questa parola, storico. Siamo di fronte a un passaggio di fase determinato da alcune tendenze, la principale delle quali è il grande cambiamento climatico-ambientale che già stiamo vivendo, unito alla pandemia, all'emergenza sanitaria. Credo che la combinazione di questi due fattori, cambiamento climatico-ambientale, emergenza pandemica, rilevano in particolare come il nodo del diritto al cibo, della sicurezza alimentare sia oggi più che mai uno dei nodi cruciali del nostro vivere comune. Avverto come tanti il rischio che nell'agenda quotidiana si discuta e si rifletta poco di diritto al cibo, di sicurezza alimentare, dopo la pandemia e con i cambiamenti climatici che stiamo vivendo. Invece questo è un tema decisivo per il nostro futuro. Se posso dare un contributo, lo voglio dare proprio a partire dall'urgenza di una nuova visione, di una nuova lettura del diritto al cibo, della sicurezza alimentare e della sovranità alimentare dopo la pandemia e con i cambiamenti climatici che stiamo vivendo. Io credo che da questo punto di vista il ruolo della cooperazione come idea attuale e futura da sviluppare sempre di più sia decisiva. Per le cose che sono state dette anche da chi mi ha preceduto molto bene. Noi abbiamo visto tempo in cui sembrava che lo strumento cooperativo fosse uno strumento del passato. E in realtà proprio le emergenze che abbiamo di fronte ci dicono ancora una volta e sempre di più che la cooperazione è una grande leva di modernità, è un grande strumento della modernità. e ne sappiamo qualcosa noi che viviamo insieme a tanti cooperatori tutti i giorni, la cooperazione dentro le sfide alimentari globali. Sono stati giustamente ricordati prima i numeri globali della cooperazione. Se io penso al settore agricolo, al settore alimentare, dico che la cooperazione sfama il mondo. Ed è uno strumento essenziale, in particolare per unire i deboli e farli diventare più forti dentro le filiere del mercato globale, dentro gli spazi aperti dell'economia globale. Allora c'è una missione da compiere: come rendere sempre più forti questi strumenti, come utilizzarli al meglio. Io penso che la cooperazione è in tutto e per tutto un pilastro dell'economia civile, è in tutto e per tutto un pilastro dei modelli agricoli e alimentari, e il nodo su cui dobbiamo riflettere è come organizzare meglio gli strumenti della cooperazione ad ogni latitudine per continuare a fare meglio questo lavoro di supporto a partire dai piccoli. Senza la cooperazione i piccoli agricoltori e le piccole esperienze di comunità anche nei sistemi agricoli e alimentari sarebbero più deboli. Ora il tema è, credo per tutti noi, trovare nuovi strumenti che aiutino la cooperazione ad essere ancora meglio dentro questi passi. La situazione del diritto al cibo e della sicurezza alimentare dopo la pandemia è naturalmente, come voi sapete più di me, diciamo è più preoccupante di come l'abbiamo lasciata prima della pandemia. La pandemia è stato un gigantesco detonatore. Nel giro di poco più di un anno noi abbiamo avuto un incremento di cittadini nell'area della malnutrizione paragonabile a quello che prima della pandemia avevamo in 5 anni. Oltre 100 milioni di persone sono entrate nell'area della malnutrizione e si sono, ahimè, aggiunte alle già 700 milioni di persone che stavano in quest'area prima della pandemia. Noi sappiamo che in prospettiva abbiamo una curva demografica che cresce, un cambiamento delle diete epocale, con un utilizzo delle proteine animali molto significativo da parte in particolare di alcuni paesi, di alcune comunità che storicamente non accedevano a proteine animali, ma avevano diete tradizionalmente legate alle proteine vegetali, un incremento di produttività agricola di qui ai prossimi anni più basso di quello che abbiamo conosciuto negli ultimi anni. Le tendenze ci dicono che noi avremo un incremento di produttività agricola nei prossimi anni nell'ordine dell'1,5-2% su scala globale. Arriviamo da anni in cui l'incremento di produttività agricola era circa del 2,5-3%. Tutto questo mentre la curva demografica cresce. Si capisce bene che abbiamo bisogno di costruire un nuovo punto di equilibrio. E per cercare questo nuovo punto di equilibrio abbiamo bisogno di discutere insieme, dal punto di vista, il nuovo modello di sviluppo, la nuova economia che vogliamo. In questo c'è un ruolo fondamentale davvero.
And in this, the cooperatives can play a major role. The reciprocity, solidarity, mutualism, these are 3 bullet keywords. And this is offered by all cooperatives at any latitude. That's the response we do all need of. And I believe the challenge is connecting these principles of cooperative experiences with the global field of the economy and the society we're living in. I do not believe that globalization will come to an end after the pandemic. I believe that the pandemic will leave other times, but within globalization once again. And this time, still with some important challenges to me. I do not believe that our future ahead will be that link and just linked to the culture of the territories. I believe instead the regions. I believe that we can do without considering the culture of places and regions and territories, to have also a modern understanding and vision of globalization, a new idea of globalization. We're putting together all local sides, aspects, and international aspects. So the local communities open up to new markets. We've seen that in some parts of the world, thanks to the open markets, millions and millions of individuals are being nourished. So that's real. That's a real situation. We have to acknowledge this, but also seeing some problems. The idea of globalization without equality, the idea of globalization just for a few and not for all. So we have to correct, the way. So we have to correct this mindset, and we have to know the one part of the objectives of the Agenda 2030, starting from the goal 1, fight to poverty, and goal 2, fight to poverty. These goals will not be achieved before 2030 without accomplishing common efforts, much more than we already did so far. If I'm thinking to global 2, fight to poverty, and I'm done, sorry, yes, I'm done. I'm just finishing this off, sorry, if it takes longer than scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I think of a goal to fight to poverty, so we have to know, if we do not double our efforts now, we're going to be totally lost. We will manage and reach these goal fight to poverty zero 2030. So we have to accomplish new efforts now, and that's decisive for our common good. I hope this will be done soon, in order to consider all the facets of global change, from finance up to the capacity of transferring to the new regions, new organizational models, coupled with putting together small ones, and better indeed. Finance needs some correction, and cooperation can make a huge difference to this that. The small ones need the new organizational tools to use, but once again, cooperation can make a huge difference. I believe from these viewpoints, you can have in FAO, you can see in FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, a useful, interlocutor to carry out this work necessary not just for cooperatives, but for all our local community. Thank you all. Sorry if it took too long.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martina. We appreciate it. And we're very fortunate to have with us next Riccardo Moro, who is our Italian C20 Sherpa. Riccardo, thank you so much for your time and availability to spend with us today.
Thank you, Howard. Just a few words to welcome you, speaking on behalf of the C20, of all the C20 constituency. We are very happy to have you on board organizing this meeting. And, C20 is the space of the civil society to have a dialogue, a demanding dialogue, as I always say, with the G20, always repeating that G20 is not the world government. G20 is a strong actor that should help and strengthen UN and strengthen multilateral networks in the framework of human rights. And for us, in C20, human rights and democracy are, of course, the fundamental lens, the fundamental driver that we systematically repeated when we speak with the G20. And we are very happy to have you this year on board, because cooperatives represent a specific way to be active in the economy. Economy is not just, it's not doing something in order to have a profit. This is a perverse and degenerated way to see economy. Economy is the organization of production and of distribution of goods and services that are needed for life. As Mr. Martina just said, we need, for instance, food, and not only food. And you do that, and cooperatives do that in a way that is able to make the small actors playing a role of and I think that this is particularly important, not only to give and to provide economy a human face, but also in terms of participation and democracy. The reality of cooperatives is this capability to gather people that otherwise, without this link, wouldn't be able to have a power and to play a role in their communities. That's the reason why we are very happy to have you on board as a civil society actor, not as economic actors, but as civil society actors that are able to feed, to fuel, to nourish this link every day. So it was important for me also to have this opportunity to say that to you, to welcome you, to apologize because I wasn't able to be with you from the beginning, and I have to leave as well because there is a parallel meeting on Afghanistan that we organized urgently at the last time, where I am as well needed. But again, thank you very much to be with us. Your participation to the C20 process has been very helpful, has been an enrichment for us, and I hope that this relation will continue in the following years, also in 2022 in Indonesia, in India, etc.
Riccardo, thank you so much. And I think you've really, really hit on the insight of what's so important in cooperatives, that cooperatives at their highest level just care about mankind and care about society, not just profit. And now we're very fortunate to have Osamu Nakano, who is Director of International Relations at the Japan Worker Cooperative Union. Osamu?
All right, thank you very much, Howard. Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to share with my presentation files. Okay, today, all right, this is my presentation file. Okay, today I'm gonna talk a little bit about cooperatives' contribution on SDGs. And we actually, this is a scale of global cooperative movement we already know. And the C20 policy pack mentions cooperatives in relation to SDGs in this way. The G20 should also help to dismantle systematic barriers faced by women producers and workers towards inclusive, democratic, and sustainable business model, easy, cooperative, etc., to improve the access to market and finance. And indeed, cooperatives are based on the ethical value of democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity, and also honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. And moreover, all of cooperatives in the world are working by following the 7 cooperative principles in this manner, such as voluntary and open membership and democratic member control. And in particular, in the 7th principle, concern for community is pretty important. And cooperatives work for the sustainable development of their communities. Actually, this 7th principle was already added in 1995. 20 years prior to adoption of SDGs. Okay, so 2030 agenda indeed mentions cooperatives twice in this place. Okay, so actually, there are so many various kinds of cooperatives in the world, and they are actually contributing to SDGs in different manner. Cooperatives have great potential to overcome poverty and to advance decent work through formalization of the informal economy by creating economies of scale, collective voice, and negotiation power. And also worker co-ops and social co-ops, pretty much strong in Italy, also inclusive enterprises for the most vulnerable people, such as low-income women, employees, youth, disabilities, indigenous people, migrants, refugees, and so on. All right, so agricultural cooperative co-ops support small-scale producers and family farmers to achieve economies of scale and improve their access to markets, finance, information, and other resources. Consumer cooperatives also contribute to food security and sustainable agriculture at the end of the food supply chains. And here, so I have two specific examples contributing to good health, gender equality, and quality education. Self-employed women's association, SEWAR in India, they are providing decent work and medical care and IT education for Indian women. And in Iran, also there's a pretty famous school cooperative established and run by Iranian women. And also, there is a very strong energy cooperatives in European countries and forest management cooperative.
Sorry, can you listen to, can you hear Mr. Osamu Nakano?
Yes.
Oh, please go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Workers Cooperative in Japan has been contributing to SDGs by providing social care, elderly care, child care, and care for people with disabilities. And last year, December 2020, Workers' Cooperative Act was enacted in Japan. According to this act, the purpose of workers' cooperatives is creating the job employment opportunities and local business, and thereby contributing to the realization of sustainable and vibrant communities. And actually, recent UN Secretary General report on cooperatives in social development mentions Workers' Cooperative Act in Japan. According to this report, Workers' Cooperative Act in Japan includes the concept of sustainable development in the legal text. And moreover, this development in Japan was influenced by the concept of social cooperatives and other legislation in Italy. So in this regard, this is a very good example of collaboration, in other words, partnership between Italian cooperative movement and Japanese cooperative movement. And the same UN report mentions pretty good comments on cooperative contribution to the SDGs. Particularly, this recommendation is very important. The UN system should continue to provide policy analysis, technical support, and capacity building assistance to cooperative and national governments to promote the continued growth of cooperatives for the implementation of the 2030 agenda. Thank you for listening.
Osamu, thank you so much for sharing. I know how much cooperatives have been a crucial part of Japan's economic and social society and how much they've contributed. So thank you for sharing that with us today. Our next speaker, we're very fortunate in finance to talk with Ignace Bakula, who's the head of regulatory affairs and relations with the European Union. Ignace?
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. I will continue in Italian. Oops. Sorry, there is a small problem, technical problem. Let me try again. Sulla falsa riga del linguaggio degli astrofisici Vi racconto in 3 momenti perché dal punto di vista...
I'd like to tell you why, from the Italian credit cooperative banks, the goals that we have set are particularly important. For the time being, I would like to talk about the G20 horizon. Unfortunately, we have some problems.
Howard, if you agree, while Mr. Bikula is trying to get his things sorted out, let's see, let's wait another minute. Otherwise, if you like, we can go to the next speaker and then come back. I see Bruno's also saying nodding. So may I please ask the next speaker to get ready?
Yes. So I think that's a wonderful idea, and we'll certainly come back, Danila. So
thank you.
We're very fortunate in our next, and we'll come back to Ignace, but to talk about health, which is such a critical part. Obviously, with the pandemic, and the cooperatives have done so much in the world during this time to really bring the health to everyone.
Yeah.
Ignace, are you back? Are you okay?
It's okay. A technical problem with the network, which has collapsed. I'm sorry. Dunque, stavo dicendo, l'orizzonte degli eventi è da intendersi in due sensi. Il primo, nel senso... Sì? Non la vedete. Yes, I will try again. I'm really sorry for...
Ignace, posso chiederti una cortesia? Mentre cerchi di risolvere il problema... Ok, go. Please do. Ok. Prego. Attenzione, IT, si sente tutto. Chiudete il mic, grazie.
No.
Prego, Ignace, sei tu.
Sì, purtroppo non riesco a muovere lo schema.
Se tu ci racconti qualcosa...
Danila, puoi presentare tu, puoi svolgere, girare le slide?
No, ma possiamo provare a chiederlo a Joseph. Nel frattempo ti chiedo la cortesia di continuare a parlare, tanto ti ascoltiamo. Prego, grazie.
Dicevo, lo spazio...
The G20 horizon is characterized by a space and time point, and you need to go very, very quick. So the horizon is exactly what we can see before us, and for us as human beings, we have the possibility of catastrophic end. Climate crisis and the crisis of the development model are two sides of the same coin that I like to summarize in terms of unsustainability. So what finance has to do with it? You know, finance is the fuel that can power these processes, the processes that led to this situation, because this finance has no other aim than its own profit. And therefore, for us, sustainability means that you can definitely bring finance on a different course, on a different trajectory. We have two different finance models. The model of finance as we see today, that is finance supremacy, and then we have sustainable finance, sustainable by design. The first model may be somehow credible, that we all, as we all know, with the concept greenwashing, while the second can solve the problem but is straitjacketed and stifled by financial and economic regulation. So the sustainable finance model exists. We have these credit cooperatives that is sustainable by design, has four specific characteristics. Firstly, civil and not circular finance. Secondly, an intrinsically democratic finance. Thirdly, this model has shown to have anti-cycle effects during the crisis. And last but not least, it has shown over the last few decades to solve poverty and income inequalities. This sustainable finance by design is such because when we look at the mainstays of this finance, so we realize that there is an overlapping between Article 2 of the Statute of Cooperative Banks and the goals of sustainable development of the Agenda 2030. For example, the first that was recalled.
Try to bring to, we want to go on, make sure we have time with all the other speakers.
Ok. Ok, vado immediatamente alle conclusioni dicendo noi salutiamo.
I'd like to jump to the conclusions, stating that we appreciate the conclusions of the finance working groups of the G20, and we hope that they can be fully implemented by governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bakula. We appreciate it. And as now we're going to go into health, which is so critical. We're going to hear from Carlo Zarco, who's the president of the International Health Cooperative Organization at a time that's so crucial in our society. Carlos?
I hope that you can hear me now. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if you're looking, seeing the screen. Oh, that's not, this is the right. You see it. Okay, I see you are seeing it. Well, first of all, thank you very much to the ICA working group leader, Howard Brasky, and also to our colleagues from the Alleanza delle Cooperative Italiane for the great job they have been doing for the C20 working group. Well, as Howard said, health is one of the main concerns in people's lives, particularly in this pandemic situation. Therefore, it's natural for people to join forces to respond to their health concerns and needs. Cooperatives are an excellent way to join forces. What has been doing now? I believe that the cooperative model, as an expression of the civil society, has a great role to play for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. Health cooperatives have a great role to play in ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages, achieving economic growth, reducing poverty, inequality, and providing decent employment, as well as promoting gender equality. Cooperatives meet various health-related needs. Patients want to receive the best healthcare at the lowest possible cost. On the other hand, health professionals can also meet their needs by creating a cooperative. It ensures them better working conditions and high quality equipment and facilities to practice their profession. Well, the potential of the cooperatives to face the global health challenges is here. The COVID-19 pandemic strongly hit the health systems with a sudden increase in the demand for health services. This emergency has added to other challenges that healthcare has already faced since before the pandemic. Governments have increasing difficulties in managing the greater demand for health services arising from the aging population and the prevalence of chronic diseases. On the other hand, citizens have higher expectations of the quality and personalization of the health services. There's a need to manage a complex balance between improving the quality of health services and ensuring equitable access while keeping health expenditure under control. Cooperatives can help with these issues, but they need supportive global policies to unfold all their potential in the health sector. Recently, the United Nations Secretary General reported that governments should create policies and programs to leverage the cooperative enterprise model for a more inclusive and resilient recovery by scaling up the provision of cooperative healthcare services to cover a larger number of people. Worldwide, cooperatives experience, I would like to briefly share you some of them. First, my experience in my organization in Spain, the Spree Foundation, which is a network of health cooperatives that provides health coverage to more than 2.6 million people, and it manages 30 million medical appointments, 4,000 surgical interventions, and more than 500,000 emergencies every year. The whole network employs 6,000 people, and 82 of them have open-ended contracts. There are many more successful experiences worldwide. Some of them are well consolidated. Companies with half a century of operation in the health sector, like Unimed in Brazil, the largest medical care network in the country, active across 85% of the territory, or in Japan, where health cooperatives have a long tradition and have been covered by national legislations in the 1940s. Currently, they cover more than 3 million people and run 75 cooperative hospitals, providing jobs to 40,000 health professionals. I could mention all the good experience examples in countries like Argentina, Italy, Colombia, India, Canada, etc. According to the figures published in the United Nations Secretary General report, approximately 100 million households worldwide have access to health services through cooperatives, which are present in 76 countries. Then, in conclusion, the pandemic has made health the highest priority on governmental agendas. The health systems in many countries are reviewing their structures to implement the lessons learned. Within this context of reconstruction and renewal, health cooperatives have new opportunities to expand. History has shown that cooperatives arise in contexts of significant transformation because our companies are remarkably resilient to crisis. Moreover, health cooperatives are in a unique position to help countries and governments achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 3 because of their commitment, flexibility, and efficiency. Health is a public good that is increasingly difficult to provide with individual responses, whether from the state, the private sector, or civil society. Health must be a social construction based on solidarity, complementarity, and collaboration. The recovery policies for health systems must consider the coexistence and collaboration of all the healthcare actors, whether public or private. Finally, I want to highlight the importance of conveying the message to the G20 leaders, the message that cooperatives can be a powerful tool to rebuild better together, as we globally express on the International Day of Cooperatives. We must remind the G20 countries that there are fairer and more innovative and democratic ways to do business. We must claim that cooperatives companies produce great value to society, that cooperatives are key in the implementation of global policies to redistribute income and wealth. And thank you very much for listening. That's all.
Thank you so much. What a critical time that I think cooperatives play in our world of making our world a healthier, better place. So thank you for all you're doing. And one other, cooperatives are so important in the world of gender equality and empowerment. And now to talk about that is Anna Manca, who's chair of the Italian Cooperative Alliance Gender Equality Commission. Anna?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you all. Let me deactivate, okay. Good afternoon to you all from the Women and Equality Commission, established inside the Alliance of Italian Cooperatives with the purpose to promote gender equality inside our organization, as well as during the representative activity with the public institutions, social and economic organization, and the academic world. According to our direct experience. We only want to underline today only some of the countless items we shared and we discussed on during the C20 Gender Working Group. The first is the access to the labor market. The female work is still precarious and segregated only in some sectors. We cannot accept it. We are sure that the sharing of care loads is an incisive factor on the gap between men and women, which influences also the career path, wages and pensions, and the risk of poverty. It is fundamental to guarantee high diffusion and accessibility to family care services in each part of our nations, with a strong engagement of companies and public authorities in order to remove the biggest barrier, the absence of work-life balance. Our cooperatives could play an important role increasing accessibility to services. The second item is to promote women's self-entrepreneurship. We know how it is strategic to support women in the access to capital and credit, caused by their less experience in negotiating financial matters. We have to promote training and effective follow-up and to design ad hoc financial products not limited to the startup phase. The third is to face the digital division from a gender perspective, a real emergency at the time of training, with consequences in the potential for job inclusion and for competitiveness of female businesses, in the opportunity to influence a digital culture that is shaping our world, unfortunately, with a prevalent man approach. The fourth is to fight against gender violence and stereotypes. Cooperatives are involved in first lines, starting from the reception and protection services, and then in the working inclusion of women victims of violence, in that delicate phase of recovery and search for their autonomy. It is important to take into proper consideration disabled women suffering double violence, immigrant women, and victims of trafficking. We don't want to forget the children involved in domestic acts of violence that require special care and support as the orphans of victims. On January 2020, the Alliance of Italian Cooperatives signed with the three most important trade unions an agreement against harassment and violence in workplaces. According to the initiative promoted by European trade unions, recently perfected by ILO, supporting and providing incentives for companies that make a real effort to implement positive actions. Last but not least, to share renewed efforts to increase women representativeness in decision-making positions, also through quotas and boards. We are going on investing in empowerment activities capable to enhance women leadership and influence all aspects of our society, starting from demolishing stereotypes. According with all these items, we lead some activities that we are also sharing and promoting inside the Gender Equality Working Group into Cooperative Europe, where we contributed to promote the Charter of Commitments to promote gender equality. 10 commitments with a huge impact to contribute SDGs number 5, and we are also involved in the International Cooperative Alliance Gender Equality Committee. As the policy pack underlined, the COVID pandemic showed us clearly the weakness of our social and economic system, and it amplified inequalities and injustices. During this period, women have always been on the front line and they suffer the worst consequences. It's time to make a significant change on gender equality, and we are sure international cooperative movement could make the difference. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. So critical, obviously, the work you're doing in women empowerment, and it's the heart and soul of what co-ops are, is the gender equality and opportunity for all. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we're very fortunate next to have Giuseppe Giurini, who is the president of CCOP and CCOPA for Europe, and also critically important at this time, he is the ICA G20 Working Group Vice Chair and has done just an amazing job and work and dedication and outcome of what he's worked on. And Giuseppe, we're looking forward to you sharing the time with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brodsky. I am very happy to be here. I switch to Italian. We have the possibility to speak in my maternal tongue, and so I prefer speech Italian. Benissimo. L'Alleanza delle Cooperative Internazionali.
The International Alliance of Cooperatives and the Italian Alliance of Cooperatives strongly believed that during the Italian G20 presidency, it was possible to use this opportunity to include in the government's agendas the topics on which we have defined a specific approach for development and for the economy, at the core of which we have the people, the citizens, an economy that can work well for the people, carried out by companies promoting participation of local communities that believe in the great potential that the civil society has. And so the G20 was the best context to reaffirm this need and to reaffirm the role that cooperatives may play as agent for change. They can become really protagonists in our society. There is no time to go back to all of the results and contributions made by our colleagues over the last few months, but we can focus on some goals. Environmental and energy transition that should involve all communities and populations in a vision of climate and energy as common assets, common goods. This is an important cooperative model that supports, for example, widespread agriculture, protecting local communities, protecting the agriculture, and this is a way to continue sustainable development and fight against the waste of land or the hoarding of land by great multinationals. There is also another important aspect, that is the digital economy that can distribute resources instead of focusing all these resources in few hands, in few multinationals. So the convergence between the cooperative model and digital technologies may be a real alternative for a new decentralized and widespread development model based on democratic principles. Like what was carried out by cooperatives that produce energy from renewable sources, we need to imagine to build digital networks that can reaffirm the digital sovereignty to the local communities based on a shared and transparent management of data. We want to have social progress whereby employment is at the core. We want to ensure right to health and the protection of the most fragile people. We believe that social issues must take precedence over mere economic issues. Finance should consider money a means and not an end in itself, with investment that can provide value to local economies, as has been the case all over the world with cooperative banks. So we also need a fair tax and fiscal system to fuel investment instead of getting value just to gain profit, invested in tax havens. So I think that this is a model for the future, with the new generation at the core, investing in training, education, culture, knowledge, on the basis of the international principles of cooperatives, speaking about this idea of the information to the members of the cooperatives, the importance of training and vocational training, in particular lifelong learning, is of fundamental importance to promote also the culture of lawfulness, to promote the rule of law. And this is of fundamental importance to fight against corruption. You know, cooperatives operate on the market, and therefore they need transparent and applicable rules of the game so as to ensure fair competition to achieve their great potential, that is the ability to reduce inequalities. This is the heritage that is the heritage of the cooperatives for the G20. May I finally thank the Italian presidency of the G20, the coordination group of the C20, and particularly Stefania Burno, Riccardo Moro, and Stefano Prato for giving us this opportunity. They really believed together with us in the fact that cooperative can really be a link, a chain between the C20, the G20, because between the state and the market, there should be the possibility of achieving sustainable development. And this can be achieved when you have social infrastructure, so to say, and the cooperatives may be this social infrastructure. This is what we cooperatives can continue to do. Thank you so much for inviting us, and I wish you fruitful work.
Mr. Guerini, thank you so much. And I think from the entire cooperative world, thank you for your dedication and your success in what you've been doing as vice chairman. You have done a marvelous job and dedicated and amazing achievements. Thank you from everybody at Cooperative World throughout the world. And now for our closing remarks, we have Mauro Lucetti, who's president of the Italian Cooperative Alliance. Mauro?
Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning to all of you. First and foremost, I wish to greet and thank Giuseppe Berini, Riccardo Moro, Howard Bronsky, Mr. Rowlands, and Maurizio Martina, Vice Secretary of the Food and Agriculture Organization, as well as the colleagues of the International Cooperative Movement for the significant contribution provided at organizational level for the success of this webinar. I believe that this is extremely important for the G20. I believe that we need to promote the great values that the cooperatives enhance. And it is in this pathway that we need to stress the important work carried out by the Italian cooperative movement. And we have promoted important initiatives to meet the specific needs of the communities, the planet. This is important to achieve our global strategic goals. Cooperatives, as already been said, are a fundamental protagonist in the economies of the world. They are considered to be reliable partners for development at all different levels. The cooperative experience enabled us to get out of poverty, to be agents for change, to be peace builders, and to create economic and social well-being. As already stressed by the Secretary General of the United Nations on September the 1st in presenting the report on cooperatives during the last General Assembly, cooperatives can really provide hope to the various communities through fair recovery. For this hope to turn into reality, we need to provide specific rules and regulations enabling cooperatives to develop their potential in all different sectors and in all different regions. And as Gutierrez recalled, the cooperatives have a fundamental role to play in this sustainable economy and recovery because they have structural characteristics, making them extremely resilient with a tangible impact on the communities as shown during this pandemic by cooperatives all over the world. They live every day putting into practice their specific values. The cases included in the report of the United Nations recalls only few of these examples. So I believe that it must better involve cooperatives. Our agenda is that of contributing to the achievement of fair and just recovery, leaving no one behind. We are part of the solution. A solution that is ever more needed. I wish to thank Dr. Moro for the attention paid to us. We would like to accept this call for having our voice be further heard, and we hope that this fruitful cooperation can continue at the end of the month of October. We hope it will continue in the future. Together with all the other parties, we are convinced that we can work together with the members of the civil society and the institutions of the G20 countries so as to involve cooperatives in multilateral initiatives, public-private partnerships, in identifying financial tools for a recovery based on the interest of the people, and in promoting sustainable development from the economic and social viewpoints while respecting the future generations. We want to achieve peaceful societies, and we want to support inclusive societies that can provide decent job opportunities. We must be that the role of cooperatives is recognized, but we have also a great responsibility to shoulder, and we must be proud of this responsibility, and we must live up to these expectations. Thank you so much, and I wish you fruitful work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Setti, and thanks for your leadership and the President of the Italian Cooperative Alliance, and to all the speakers today that shared their insight. And we know that cooperatives truly build a better world. It's for a more inclusive society, for a society that's more equitable and sustainable for all. So thank you for everybody for being with us today and sharing your insights and sharing your time.
So before we leave, can we take a photograph of us? Please don't go. Joseph, come into the screen. Come on, Joseph. Okay. So, ready? I'm not so good at it, but I'll try. Okay. So, 3, 2, 1. Beppe, take your mask off. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, you all. Thank you, Danila. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.